Hello and welcome to this podcast for Electropages. I'm your host, Robin Mitchell. Today we are talking to our very good friend from Samtec. We saw him in Embedded World in Texas and we've seen him a bunch of other times. I'd like to introduce you to Matt Burns and thank you for being on the show today.
Robin, good morning here in the US, good afternoon in the UK. Good to be with you again. Always love talking with you, it's always fun.
Now, just for those who are watching this video and they have never seen your beautiful face on this podcast before, just explain to them who you are, what you do, and what we're going to be talking about today.
I think your first mistake is to describe this as a beautiful face, but I'll take the compliment. My role, so I've been at Samtec for 9 years. My role at the company is Director of Technical Marketing. Our team focuses on working with our leading technologists and then creating marketing strategies, customer awareness, education for those solutions through various channels. One of them being our partnership with Electropages.
Fantastic. Now, last time we saw you, which was in Texas about maybe a month or so ago, I think it was now, we saw some really cool stuff. And again, we talked about the size of the connectors getting really small. We talked about how you can basically use them for anything besides, the whatever it is that they're designed for, those compute modules where they sit on. So we've got a whole bunch of events coming up this year. And I think before we jump into those specific events, my first question is, what new stuff can we expect? Or is there anything particularly exciting that we should look out for in these upcoming events?
Well, the short answer is yes, Robin. And the challenge with answering that question is we're right smack dab in the middle of trade show season. Yeah. And these trade shows are targeted at specific applications, yeah. Right? You mentioned Embedded World. That's an ecosystem. We went to an AI show in September. That's a specific ecosystem. When we look out to November and December, we're going to a PCI SIG DevCon in India. We're going to supercomputing in the US. We've got Electronica coming up, obviously, which is one of the biggest shows on the planet in our industry in November. We have a Women in Engineering show. We're going to AOC, which is Mil Aero focused here in the US, and other similar events. So it's hard to answer that question.
That is a tight schedule.
And it's a lot, right? And that's only the next 6 weeks.
I know that. Wait, hang on. That's the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, that's all between now and the middle of December.
Oh, goodness me!
And that doesn't count the U.S. The U.S. Thanksgiving holiday in there, where we all take 4 days off and eat too much turkey.
Oh, God, that's ridiculous. Honestly, that is ridiculous. So
it's a busy schedule, but we like it.
So you're going off to India next week, which is a shame because I'd like to have seen you in Electronica, but you won't be attending, will you, for that one?
Yeah, sorry.
Sad. And then you're going to be going to, you've got supercomputing in the United States, in Atlanta, yeah. And then you've got a few more, haven't you, as well?
Yep. Yes. Corporately, I'm not going to all 6, I'm going to 3.
Going to 3, wow.
3's enough.
3, still, that's a lot of traveling, though, in such a short amount of time as well.
Is.
So, God, that's ridiculous. So, why are there so many events in this part of the year? Is there something, is it normal?
It is, what is normal coming out of the pandemic is trying to find the new reality that we all had before the pandemic. So historically, at least from Samtec's perspective, trade show season is typically springtime and fall time.
Yeah.
And definitely where we're at right now is just a normalization of what a continued normalization of where we were before the pandemic. A good example of that's Electronica. That's like one, in my mind, that's like one of the biggest events that Samtec does on our calendar. Obviously, that's a biannual event. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Robin. This is the first time Electronica is in person since, is it 2018? Because obviously 2020 you couldn't have.
We were there 2022. So
okay.
Yeah, no. So yeah. It is a tricky one because, like you say, because a lot of these events were shut down during the COVID period. It's kind of hard to figure out when they stopped and then started again. But no, it was supposed to be 2020, but then I think it was. I think it was actually virtual in 2020. Something rings a bell.
So in person.
It might have been, yeah. So this is the second time they've done it. But oh no, it is a fantastic event though.
It is. And we noticed, that there was a trickle of trade. Just to comment on this, just briefly, there was a trickle of trade shows like at the end of 2021, and that trickle became a little bit more in 2022. And I personally wasn't in Electronica 22, but our team was there, and they said it was good to be back after 4 years in person, but it wasn't quite the full event. But from our planning that Samtec's putting on, and from what we hear from our colleagues like yourself, our partners, Electronica 2024 should be back to a full event. And based on the investments we're making, the products we're going to be releasing, the demonstrations that we're planning, it's going to be a full event.
And if I've heard correctly, you guys are getting 2 booths. Is that correct, to put together?
We have a double booth. So we're actually using two spaces. I forget the exact sizes, but our booth is at Hall B2, stand 119, and Hall B2, 219. Now, granted, it's going to look like one giant booth, but yeah, it's like a small city block. We're trying to create our own postal code in Munich at Electronica this year.
Well,
so if you have any mail, just send it.
Well,
to us.
considering the size of Electronica, I would not be shocked if you had a postcode. It is ridiculous. In fact, I will say this right now. My biggest criticism of Electronica is that it's because it's so big. If you're someone like me who works in media, you've got to walk backwards and forwards all the time. So you do like 50,000 steps a day, and all I want is a little electric car that I can just drive up and down. It would make the event fantastic. But of course, for people, it is so tiring, but it is a great event, and I'm guessing there's going to be a ton of free drink as well, because Electronica is mad on that usually.
I just think that's one of the best parts of German culture is the fact that everyone likes beer, and that's one of the reasons that I love traveling to Germany. It's a wonderful country, but I'm not going to sit here and say as an American I do not love that I love the beer at all the trade shows. It's a nice. It makes them.
It takes the edge of having blistered feet. So, the way I see it, it's a positive.
Or a sore throat from talking too much, right?
Oh, God. Well, that's the problem, because when you have like your networking during the evening, most people go out and have a drink and they'll have meals and talk to people. I actually have to go to bed really early, because if I don't, my voice breaks the next day, and then I can't do the podcast or interviews. So it's like I'm the one guy in Electronica who cannot enjoy himself in the evening. I have to go straight back and rest. Within reason. It just doesn't work. Yeah. So that's the one thing that always gets me down a bit. But Electronica is a great event. But going back to Embedded World very quickly, because I haven't actually asked you this yet. What did you take away from that event? How did you like it? It was good.
It was a wonderful event, Robin, and I was really glad that you and your team were there, because it shows it validates the need for an embedded computing platform for North America.
Absolutely.
Right. When I look at Embedded World Nuremberg, which happens in the spring all the time, that's a strong event, and it's one of the largest events that we do annually in Europe from Samtec corporately. And it has a nice platform around the globe. So over the last 5 to 10 years, there used to be the old Embedded Systems Conference here in the U.S., and that kind of just withered. For a multitude of reasons. So there's been like this open need, or this open space for Embedded World, and there were a couple fits and starts that that were attempted, but for whatever reason they never gained traction. So I think the fact that the folks that were behind Nuremberg, the Nuremberg events, brought the platform to North America, provided it with the foundation, provided it with the trust that the companies like Samtec, Electropages, and so many more took advantage of it. So the event in Austin I thought was a success because of the fact that it was pulled off successfully. It was a good sized show for the first time in North America. Everyone that I talked to at the event, and I don't want to sound overly optimistic because I'm in marketing, that's typically what I do, but in general, sorry, it's true. But in general, the attendees, the sponsors, the partners, the media folks, other people that were just walking the show, attendees, everyone was really excited to see the scale. Now, I was going to say, because that's interesting you mentioned that, because my impression with the Embedded World in Texas was that it was like you had fewer attendees and fewer stands, but the quality of those attendees was much higher in the sense that every person I talked to, it felt like that the conversation is going to go somewhere, and it has pretty much every single one. So I felt like it was a much higher quality event in terms of like the you speak to less people, but you speak to the right people. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. The one hope, I guess I'd say, to put a positive spin on this for next year, is the event for 2024 was a success. But everyone I talked to is like, this needs to grow.
Absolutely.
And from what I understand, talking with the event planners, that the event in 2025 is already booked and planned. For fall of next year. I think it's early October of 2025. They're moving it to Anaheim, California, to a larger event space, a larger convention center. increased the size of our booth.
Oh, excellent.
Many people I talked to did the same. Yeah, did the same thing. So to wrap it up, great event, high quality folks that you talk to, and it's going to grow. So what's not to love? We love the event in Nuremberg. We continue to go there. We're happy that the event in the U.S. or North America, excuse me, not just U.S. because there's attracted people from all across the continent there. We're really excited to see the growth of the embedded world. It's a great ecosystem. You had global people there, right? The ODMs from Taiwan, the embedded boards manufacturers, designers, manufacturers from Central Europe, and the component providers from North America. So, what more could you ask for?
Well, exactly, and I personally cannot wait to go to the next event, except for the fact that they moved it away from Texas because I really did like the ribs. So sadly, I won't be able to get those again.
The barbecue, you can't beat barbecue. Actually, I think you and I talked about
we
this.
did.
If you could combine German beer
Oh,
with Texas
don't.
barbecue,
Yeah,
that's like a meal made in heaven.
That would be unbelievable. Honestly, they need to make that happen. Honestly, but like it's still because California's quite good because it's going to have all the big companies around next door. Because one thing I really liked about the Austin event is that we got to see quite a few large companies who are basically just down the road, and that's something I've never been able to do at Embedded World or Electronica. So it really was amazing to be able to then visit these sites afterwards. So again, that's something I'd love to see happening in other events. The ability to shuttle a bunch of engineers onto a bus, send them to the facility, and they can look around. And I think it adds a lot of value.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that one of the reasons that everybody gets, and I think this is a parallel, right? I think one of the reasons that switching gears, going back to Electronica, I think some of the reasons that people are so excited about that is because so much of the electronics industry, components industry, is in southern Germany.
Yeah.
Right. Munich is if not the tech center, it's one of the tech centers in Europe or EMEA. So I know our team, when we go visit our partners, we go visit our customers, we go visit the European semiconductor companies, et cetera, et cetera. So I see parallels between the point you make about embedded world as well as Electronica. So yeah.
Now,
anyway,
sorry, carry on.
Sorry, you asked me a question earlier, and I want to go back to this. Yeah. I just want to make sure we cover this. You asked me about new products.
I was going to say to you that we discussed, we had a quick call about this beforehand, and I know that you can't mention some products because they're going to have to be revealed in a certain way. So I suppose that if we change that question slightly, could you tell us what applications and what areas we're going to be seeing, and maybe some sort of hints and ideas of what might be coming on?
Yeah, that's a good way of phasing. I can mention some of the products because some of them have already been launched, and also some of the demonstrations that we're going to have that are focused on some of these new products. So Electronica is an all play. It's one of those general trade shows that just attracts everybody. So it's tough for Samtec because we've got so many different solution blocks, and there's so many segments that we plan. It's like we want to show everything, but we can't show everything because So a couple of the things that we're focusing in on. Especially for embedded, we have a whole platform that we're calling Ursa I. Ursa, Latin for bear. I'm sure you know that because you're a smart guy. And the reason that we call it Ursa is because it's rugged. When you look out into the mill arrow, you look at rugged applications. Micro D connectors are very, very popular. They're rugged. They're reliable. You can throw. It seems like you can throw gigawatt. This is an exaggeration, but gigawatts of power through them. Lightning fast speeds, et cetera, et cetera. So, and they're very small. Not everybody needs all the features of a micro D. They need something that's rugged. They need something that can pass power, that can pass, good data, but not necessarily data center rates, et cetera, et cetera. So we have introduced, and we continue to expand, an entire portfolio of rugged panel mount connectors, cable to cable, cable to board interconnect solutions around this Ursa I platform. The first interconnects were designed for ruggedization, use hyperboloid type contacts, 4 points of contact, which increases the reliability, allows for more current to pass through it, et cetera, et cetera. Based on the reception from the market, we're looking to diversify the capabilities of the family, putting RF in there, putting high-speed data in there. So we're going to have some demonstration systems or demonstrations of Ursa as well as product samples at Electronica.
In terms of application for these, you're sort of adopting the ruggedization that you get in like mill standards, but for those who aren't using mill applications, who just need a bit of a simpler cable or one that has less features, essentially.
Exactly. It's not necessarily a mill standard interconnect, but it's just as rugged and can be used in a number of rugged applications that may not necessarily require mill standard specs. So that may be, we talk about a bit. Maybe it's rugged computing. Maybe it's medical.
Construction systems.
Maybe it's sure. Automation. Commercial aviation, transportation, transportation. So there's a number of ruggedized applications out there that, due to their various applications that they play in, Robin, they need ruggedization, but they don't need a mil spec connector, which can be an investment, frankly.
Yeah.
So this is an alternative. This is an alternative for those type of applications that gives you a functionality of a mil standard micro beam.
And I suppose from the perspective of those applications, what they are essentially getting is like you say, a more rugged connector for. Actually, this is an interesting question then. So,
fire away.
So, if you take those applications that would maybe want to use that connector, why is it that they would go for that one than the one that they would be currently using, if that makes sense?
No, that's a good question, and it's part of it is, do I need the full functionality? Some of it's going to be cost. Some of it may be flexibility in terms of how we can have power, signal, RF contacts within the system. Granted, it's not fully released, so we have the general contacts right now, which would support signal and power, and then we're going to add high speed and RF in the future. But it's an alternative to some of the solutions on the market. It's an answer for rugged applications. It may not be the answer for everyone. I guess that's the best way to answer that question.
Okay, that makes sense. And so it's kind of like providing that. So it's almost like a middle step. So you're currently here. You want to get the full spec connector, but it's too expensive or it's too overkill or for your application. So you go for this next line down here. It still gives you that ruggedization, but it's not going to have your super duper gigawatt RF capabilities, which you would need in a fighter jet or something. So it's kind of like, it's just like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. So you need 90% of that mil spec standard, but you don't want to pay the mil spec price. This fits the bill for a non-mil aero application, but still you need the high level of ruggedization.
Yeah, that's fine. Exactly. Makes complete sense.
Yeah, great question.
So what else can we expect to see then?
So another area that we're going to feature is high-speed I/O.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you and I have talked repeatedly
a lot about that
at Electronica or some of these other shows, talking about data center speeds.
Yeah.
We're going to feature some of the products that we have available there. And in general, when you're talking about high-speed interconnect, you're talking about 112 gigabit data rates. You're talking about 224 gigabit data rates. So we're going to have some product samples as well as some product demonstrations of some of the solutions that we offer at those speeds.
Yeah.
So we have our COM-HPC connectors, which you and I have talked about in embedded work.
Yeah.
Right. Those get up to 112 gigabit, PCI 6, et cetera, et cetera. We're looking at some of the front panel solutions that may go into a data center or high performance computing or a AI application. So we're going to have OSFP front panel technology, SFP front panel technology, QSFP technology, but using Samtec's patented flyover concept, where instead of routing those high speed data through the PCB, we're actually going to send it through the cable because we've got 1/3, 1/4 loss.
I still couldn't believe that when I found out about flyovers about 2 years ago. The fact that you can just sort of go over a PCB and that will be that incurs less loss than the PCB trace itself. But then those cables they're usually are they twisted pairs? Aren't they usually?
They're twin-ax.
Twin-ax, yeah.
No, they're co-extruded twin-ax technology, which is something that's proprietary. The twin-ax is not proprietary to Samtec, but the way we manufacture.
Yeah, because you actually measure them as you're twisting them to make sure that the sizes are exactly correct. So you can very carefully. Exactly. Yeah, I've seen it. It's very impressive work.
Co-extruded, parallel.
Yeah.
And the nice thing, Samtec's a connector company. So you tell us what front panel connector you need, we have it. You tell us what connector you need right next to your ASIC in the system, FPGA, GPU, whatever. We can make that. So some of the 112 gigabit solutions we have are our SciFly LP, very low profile. It's like less than 5 millimeters. We've got high density, our Accelerate HP connector, which is massive density in a very small form factor. And then we also have our Nova Ray interconnect, which actually gets up to 128 gigabit PCI 7 data rates. So a number of solutions that we'll be featuring there at Electronica, talking about high speed. Just an example, I just want to verbalize one or two of the demonstration platforms we have. We've been working with, Samtec is agnostic in terms of who the semiconductor partners that our customers work with. But our customers always tell us, show us your interconnect with leading edge silicon. Message received. So one of the demonstration platforms will have actually illustrates all of the, or demonstrates all of the front panel flyover technology we have. So that's going to be our Nova Ray IO, that's going to be our flyover QSFP, that's going to be our flyover SFP, our Nova Ray IO in the front panel. And we're running that all with microchips, 112 gigabit Ethernet switching technology. So it's kind of a side-by-side comparison. Say, look, the performance of the signal from front panel technology to front panel technology doesn't really change. So it shows that all these platforms can make sense depending upon the application. So we're excited about that. Something else that we have, people, going back to flyover and other cable technologies, people are, well, how rugged is this? Will this last? Okay, it's great. You've designed this ultra high speed, ultra low noise, ultra high frequency cable. Can you manufacture it in density? Or can you manufacture it in volume? And can you make it rugged enough? So I don't know if you've seen this demo, but we actually have a drums kind of going back and forth and then testing the cable on a DNA to actually show the performance of the cable while it's going through a life cycle testing. So we have a big test platform like this in our cable manufacturing facility, but we've kind of shrunk it down into a video game. You can actually play Space Invaders while you're watching the cable get tested and beat up. I think you'll like it, Robin.
I was going to say what you probably need to do for a setup is to get one of these cables going from one place to another, like you're starting your end, and you can see a live number of like the number of gigabits per second, right? And then you give them a pair of drumsticks and go, right, now go drumming on the cable, and then you can hit it as many times as you want, and the number doesn't change.
Something like that. We're doing that. We're not doing that mechanically. We're doing electronically.
Oh, you got to do it. You got to do it mechanically. You got to be able to hit that thing.
Yeah, I know. But you'll see it when you see it electronic. You'll know exactly. That's what Matt was talking about. So yeah, we have something like we have upwards of 6 or 7 active demos. I'm just giving you a teaser on 2 of them. We're going to invite all of our customers, all your listeners, to visit us at B2 119 and B2 219 at Electronica next week.
Is that the postcode or the stand?
It's the postcode and the stand.
It's the postcode and the stand. Brilliant.
And make sure that you come in a little electric vehicle so you can see Robin going.
Oh, absolutely, because I tell you,
all the stands on.
Because I tell you, it's way too big. Yeah, this is way too big. So that's some really cool technologies that we've heard that are hopefully going to be shown in the assuming nothing goes wrong in Electronica this year. And so, do you want to tell us a bit about some of the other demonstrations you might be doing in the other shows around the world?
No, that's great. So with supercomputing, that's obviously focused on a very specific market that goes after how, you look at the research that's being done in industry, government agencies, academia around the world. Supercomputing is a larger brother to the ISC show that's typically held in May across Europe. Same type of community, but I don't know the exact size, but I've been to both events. The North American events a little bigger. So again, it's more of a data center community. But one of the things that one of the trends that we're seeing that we're real excited about is as AI, and I think you and I have talked about this before, Robin, as AI has become so disruptive in terms of how you create accelerated computing platforms. Everything in the chassis, most of the compute used to be in a general chassis, and then what you would go outside the rack from throughout the rest of the chassis would be I/O. But with AI, because these models continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, you have parallel. You're using
distributed
parallel processing capabilities, of GPUs. So you're literally connecting hundreds, if not thousands, tens of thousands in GPU to create this data center size compute
and considering the data and considering the memory bandwidth, the transfers per second, and the distances involved. Like you say, even with a flyover cable, how are you going to make that thing work across 20 meters instead of 1 meter?
Yeah, and that's the challenge. So there's several use cases. Whether you're trying to tie the GPUs together, or you're tying the GPUs to memory, via HBM or whatever. There's long distance cables. So if you're running at 112 gigabit, we're starting to talk about 224, even faster speeds. 128 gigabit with PCI 7, et cetera, et cetera. There's only so far you can send that data over copper cables with Twin X. So 2 meters, in most instances, when you get to 5 to 7 meters, what you need for long reach or tying things back, you definitely need to go optics.
Yeah.
Right. So routing high speed over optics is a big focus of the entire high speed, high performance computing ecosystem.
But if I remember correctly, the challenge that you guys face is that unlike copper, whereby the signal you're sending is electrical in nature, so both sides can relatively easily send it and receive it. With an optical system, you've got to turn it into a light source, which means you have to make that thing oscillate or switch very, very fast, which is actually harder than optical systems. And then receiving it, being able to then pick up those pulses quick enough, or whatever mechanism you're using, to then turn it back into a data stream.
No, that's exactly right. At the physical layer, that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Electrons and photons back to electrons, right? And the challenge is what optical transceiver makes the most sense for an application. So there's a whole focus on the industry, which is what's called on package optics, or NPO, near package optics.
Yeah.
CPO, co-package optics. That's lightning fast. That's data center. That's 224. You're looking at 448. 448 next generation. But if I only have to send, instead of sending 224 gigabits, I only have to send 25 gigabits. I don't need to worry about having that optical conversion done at the wafer level, or the substrate level, or the package level. I can do that at the front panel and midboard. So where Samtec focuses on is midboard optical transceivers. So we've got our Firefly family, we've got our Halo family, we've got demonstrations at supercomputing illustrating the 56 gigabit performance of Halo. We have several demos showing CXL, PCI Express technologies over optics with our partners. We've demonstrated these at past trade shows. They're really excited to do that again at supercomputing. Because it's relevant. Because again, I'm trying to scale GPUs together, or I'm trying to increase the speed between the GPU and the memory. And those are the two applications so far when it comes to AI and high performance computing, where optics is finding a home. Obviously, you can run I/O from data center to data center. That's been done for decades, or multiple generations of technology. But putting that optics in the box, or in the rack,
and I think as well,
that's the fun.
And it's like you take a look at a typical network. You've got individual machines connected by Ethernet cables, because that's how they message each other. But now it's almost like you're trying to connect this one machine's RAM module to the RAM module of the next machine, so that they've got the maximum performance between the 2 points. It's more lower level, I would say.
In essence, it's the memory technology continues to evolve.
Yeah.
The latest technology is HBM, high bandwidth memory. It's not just a single die and a single chip. I was just reading an article in the last 24 hours. HBM4, there's actually 16, I think up to 16 wafers or 16 die on a single package. So you have that data traveling back and forth in the memory, but how do you get it outside the chip to the GPU?
Blimey.
And that's not just on a PCB. You've got GPUs and you've got memory arrays. It's really exciting. We could talk about this forever, but I continue to talk with the world's leading technologists, and one of the key trends we see in AI, ML, high performance computing data center, innovation is happening faster. The need for it is faster, and the industry is struggling.
Yeah, and
all because we want Gen AI.
Because we want Gen AI, and as the moment that happened, it's just like now instead of AI catching up to the hardware is now trying to catch up with these applications.
Yes,
basically,
that's spot on.
And it really has been exponential. It's really been quite impressive how it's just gone whoop like that, and then suddenly nothing we have is capable, and then suddenly there's shortages of this, shortages of that. These connectors have stopped working in that environment, and it's honestly become unbelievable how difficult we are now trying to catch up. So it sounds like there's a lot of interesting stuff that we can all expect from Electronica at Samtec, but what would you be most excited about, considering the fact that you have insider knowledge?
Well, the beer, of course.
The beer, of course. But if you had to pick a Samtec solution, what Samtec solution would you be interested in?
You didn't preface the question, Robin. That was an easy one to tease you on. No, aside from Hefeweizen, German Hefeweizen is my favorite, so I got to put that out there. Just the scale, right? This Electronica 2024 is going to be a key event, and our team is really excited. I think the industry is really excited. There's a lot of enthusiasm going into the event. So the scale of the event, the amount of technology that's going to be at the event, that's to me is the key. And again, it's hard for me to pick one thing out, Robin, because we have so many cool stuff. But because Electronica is for the masses and for so many unique solutions, I'm excited to see how the market's going to respond to our expanding Ursa I product. I think that's a really cool solution. We talked a little about it earlier. So I hope your listeners stop by and learn more about Ursa I. Obviously, they can go on our website, samtec.com, and learn information about it as well.
And I know, and obviously every event has its own benefits, and every event is always worth going to. But I think we should not kid ourselves when we say that Electronica is like the event where it happens. It's where to be. It's the place, if that makes sense. It's where it all happens. And I think if you can only go to one event a year, you should probably pick Electronica, in my opinion, simply because of the fact that, like the sheer scale, the sheer size, the number of people, the contacts you can make, the beer. It's just a fantastic event, and it's the place to be. So I am personally very looking forward to next week, where we're going to be turning up. And I suppose before we wrap up this video, I've got one more question for you. For those who are watching this video and they want to get involved with Samtec Solutions and they want to see you guys at Electronica, what would you recommend that they do?
Visit our booth, or visit our stand, which I think we mentioned. Hall B2.
It's the whole of just Hall B.
We're not that big, but it feels like it. Yeah, so please visit us in Hall B2, stands 119 and 219, and visit our website, samtec.com. Has information on all of our latest products. We've completely revamped the website from a product standpoint. It's easier to find the solutions, and we're continuously updating with new products.
Fantastic. Well, all I can say is, as always, it's been a fantastic pleasure to have you on the show.
Always a pleasure, Robin. I always look forward to talking to you. Sorry I can't see you next week.
Sad.
In Electronica, because I'll be in the subcontinent.
But that's okay.
I look forward to seeing you
that's
in person.
Okay. Well,
nearly as soon as possible.
we will definitely see each other soon.